Greetings, hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. Sorry about the slightly longer startup time there, but hopefully you're all having a fantastic afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is in wherever you are in the world. If you are new to DevChatter, welcome. My name is Brendan, this channel is DevChatter, and that is our subscription notification. Stoolpenner! Coming in with the 11-month resub. Very nice. Oh man, anybody feel the excitement? That is 11 months. That is awesome. Thank you for well, sticking around with us for 11 months, Stoolpenner. It is awesome to have you still here. And S&B thanks as well for spamming some hype in there to help us celebrate Stoolpenner's 11-month resub. Sadly, Twitch doesn't give you any cool, fancy stuff for 11 months. On the positive note, next month, if you sub again, you'll get that fancy smiling Chatosaurus, like what Coated Beard has there. And I'm trying to think, did they do anything else for 12 months? I don't remember if they do anything else for 12 months. But either way, welcome everyone. So as I was saying, my name is Brendan. This channel is DevChatter, and we like to do live coding here on the stream. I am planning on us working on some refactoring today. I actually started this already, trying to think through the problem. I spent a little while trying to think it through. It's kind of complicated, but I will attempt to explain. Let me, first off, welcome everyone into the chat. So who's here? Prototype, hello, greetings. Stoolpenner, welcome. I know S&B and Coated Beard said hi as well. If I missed anybody, just shout something else out, and I will say hi to you as well. So welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. If, let's see, what other stuff do I want to mention on my intro? I'm just going to click that button and it will solve some of the problems. What? Oh, there it is. Okay. Hey, Katrina, welcome. Hello, hello. So I clicked a handful of buttons to just spam some links into the chat. Links go to things like our GitHub, where you can find source code for most of our projects. Not this one, but most of our projects. You can also find our Discord server, where you can chat with me and the other DevChatter viewers. And I toss links to our YouTube, which has archives of our videos, as well as our Twitter. And yes, as everyone notes in the chat, our bot is, of course, rigged. Okay. So let's talk about this code. I want to refactor it. Does a couple of things. Let's discuss what's in here. So, as the description mentions, we are building an application that integrates into Final Fantasy VII and provides chat controls into that classic game. As a classic game, some of the interesting things about the way that it works is it manages memory very carefully. So, in the game, you will find that memory stays in consistent locations. So unlike a lot of the development that we would do in C#, where we would instantiate a new object using the new keyword, and because it's a class, that's a reference type that's created in the heap. So very little control of where in memory, like the actual memory address, that object gets created. So in these older languages, and these older style games, the memory was managed a little bit more carefully, so the game knows where that memory is. So the pointers are direct to that spot and is managed very carefully. What that means for us is that we know where all that is and we can access it directly and store the values that we need. So when I run the game, no matter how many times I start it, the location where it stores the weapon equipped to the main character is going to be consistent. The location where that character's armor is going to be consistent. And that's one of the cool things about it. 1 second, everyone. Let me click. I want to click a couple of buttons here. And it's very warm today, so I'm going to try to have an AC unit running just right here. And we'll see how that goes. If that does get loud or annoying, just let me know, and I'll do something to adjust it. Okay, so here's what we're changing. Let's take a look. So, first off, I want to show you what we were doing before. So, let's go to... where's a good one? Accessories. So, inside of this, we were keeping static collections of data inside of an accessories object, and it does two things. First off, the accessories object is both the structure for the data that we're using, so it is an item object, it has these values, and then when we create them, if we take a look, we just put an in-memory collection of all of the data. Now, obviously, this could come from any source. It doesn't have to just be hard-coded into the app, though we just tossed it in here for now. So this is actually where all of the various weapons are, and we have them actually listed in order based on their value. So actually, within the system, what their value is, that's the order that we've declared them here. But what we've done with them is we've put in their name and a more convenient, like, human typable number. Because no one's going to want to remember that the bronze bangle, for example, is ID 256. That's just a pain in the rear to remember. Also, welcome, Lucky. Welcome, Miha. Glad to see some people saying hi in chat. Twitch says you're 2 days away from a Smilosaurus. Oh, that's awesome, S&B. Well then, that'll make the Thursday stream a fun one. Unless that's off by one and it means like 2 days and it would be right, at which point, yeah, we'd miss by one. And then it would be Saturday, which Saturday stream, I'll tell you, is up in the air on whether or not that's happening. Okay, so as I was saying, this is ID 255, this is ID 256. I happen to just know those because that's where that cutoff point is, but no one's going to want to really type those ones in. It is much easier for someone to say something like, I want to put Vincent at their starting weapon, so I set Vincent to 0. I want to put Katesith at his starting weapon, so I set it to 0. It's much easier to, to gauge and guess that, like, I want people to be able to guess. So if they are using a number instead of a name, like, the number just indicates, like, what order weapon that is, how good it is, what equipment it is. So it's nice to just make it 0 through something. So those are the IDs we're using. 28 days. Yeah, Stoolpenner, 28 days later, totally safe. Okay, so that's what we were doing before. And as I said, it was doing this lookup. Now I'm changing the structure. I created, where is it? Here we go. An equipment data class that is generic. Hey, Renee, welcome. And the equipment data class, I decided we would make it generic so that we could have an equipment data class. And this, basically, its role is to give access to the equipment data. And we would have one for each type of equipment that we might be accessing. There are 3 types of equipment. There is weapons, there's armor, and there are accessories. Those are our 3 types. And I decided that since they are basically the same, except weapons have a slight distinction, and I guess accessories have a slight distinction too. Each one is just ever so slightly different, but for the most part they're the same. They could reuse the same class that does the lookups for the ID, by ID. So this would be the typed ID. And by typed I mean like not like system type, but not like programming type. I mean like someone types, like someone keyboarded it. The letters that a person typed into the computer used here. This is the getting it by the ID that it is as an item in your inventory. Now here's the thing that is going to be a little bit annoying. In order to save space, every item in this game has 2 IDs. There's the ID that it has when it is treated as an item in your inventory, and there is the ID that it has when being used for its purpose. Yes, written by typing. Exactly, Stoolpenner. Something that is written by typing. So this is a written ID. That's a much better word for that. And the equipment ID right here, equip ID, that's the ID that it uses when it is equipped to a character. This one is the ID when it is an item in your inventory. The reason they needed to separate this into 2 separate IDs, there are 9 bits worth of items. There are, fewer than 8 for each type of equipment or each type of usable item. So because of that, they can save data, they can save space by reducing this. So that's the problem that we run Happier now the boss agreed to the time off for... Oh, TwitchCon 2019. Yeah. That's awesome, Lucky. I saw you mention that you were going to be able to make it to TwitchCon. I still don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to make it this year, so we'll see. It is a tougher one for me. My boss is really strict. Which really comes down to my schedule. Okay, so when this is created, in order to make sure that I'm not having to do this type of lookup where I'm checking the item list every single time and grabbing all the data, what I'm doing is on creation of this object, I will do a single search through that collection and essentially make a list that's all the pointers to the objects. So this gets me a list that's in this class that will point to that. No. That is not what I mean, S&B. I meant me. Yes, the Chatosaurus is very strict. Is the equipment data, would it not be better to return T instead of equipment? Yes! Oh my god, yes, thank you. Yes. Yes, this should be returning T. Yes, that should absolutely be returning T. Which means these should be T as well. Yes. Which means I don't need to do that either. Yes, they should be T. Thank you. That was my original plan, Renee. Good catch. And I was like, yeah, because we'll be able to do that, and it'll work. That's part of why we made it this. And then apparently at some point, just when doing that, I stopped thinking for a moment. So, okay, so here's the concept of this. Originally, what I was trying to come up with is how can I get it so that so that when calling this, essentially the problem I was running into, and I'll explain why we're doing it this way. Originally, each one of the types of equipment, so weapon, has these static methods to see, is that a valid weapon ID, and then find the weapon by value. And so the weapon type needs to be the thing that defines whether or not you've found it. And so it's important that it do that. That makes sense to me. Weapons should be able to understand, have you ID'd this weapon? You're picking this one? Yeah, that makes sense. That logic should be tied to the weapon. And right now what we did is, because the collections are on the various types of equipment, what that meant is if we wanted to extract out the logic and say be accessing an equipment object instead, or which then we would be accessing through a T object or something like that, then we would somehow need to have static abstract methods, which is not a thing. And there are some ways to sort of work around that, in that you can use reflection to find static methods, but then, we're doing horrible things. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Nikki Supra coming in with the 9-month resub. That is awesome. Salutations indeed, and welcome to the stream. 9 months. That means you just got your grabbers. Congratulations. Your Chatosaurus now has arms long enough to reach over his own head. So that is awesome. Let me take a look at what's going on. Reminded me of this one. Why iList instead of list? Did someone else get that? So you can use anything that uses iList and not just list. Coded to an interface rather than a concrete class. Yep, that is correct. ToList returns list, right? Yes, it does, Dungeon Smasher, but it could be an array or it could be a list. I don't have to worry about it then. And all the features that anything is going to need from that, they're just going to need a list at this point anyway, because it's also only used internally. So it doesn't really make a difference. C# will treat it the same. Unrelated, any reason for using AutoFac over the built-in DI container, or just diversity? Oh, in the DevChatter bot. So the built-in scanning in AutoFac we are using in the DevChatter bot, Miha. That is why we're using it there. Although I do know that some people have written libraries to add scanning to the default DI container. So if you do want to use the default DI container, you are totally capable of just wiring that up using a library that will give you scanning support. Alternately, you could write your own scanning support for it. It would not actually be that difficult to just look through the assemblies in a language using reflection and find the ones that you want to match up defaultly. But again, that's a solved problem, and reinventing the wheel usually isn't a great thing to do, because then you have to maintain that code, whereas, collaboratively we as a community of developers can maintain the open source project that provides that separately. Built-in DI is getting a lot better. Yes, lucky number 7 is correct, despite his capital letter usage there. The built-in DI in .NET Core is improving. Microsoft is making some changes to it to make it better. The initial version was really just we want to make sure that we have it and it's a first-class citizen, so that we can make sure that people are all using DI. So that's why it got like really, really baked in .NET Core. Let's see, what else is in here? Nice, yes, exactly, Nike Supra. The Chatosaurus has extendo arms now to be able to reach high places. Just a curiosity when looking through the code. I get that, but iList causes problems with array? Yeah, so Dungeon Smasher. Yes, so if you're using an array instead of, and you are correct, I can use a list here and it's not a problem because it's created right there and it doesn't really make a difference. That was just copied over from somewhere else where I was sometimes creating them as an array and sometimes as a list, and so I did an iList because it depended on the circumstance of where it was created. However, you are correct that the iList interface does add some functionality that when your type is an array instead of a list, it is not handled as efficiently as a list does. However, if you want consistent functionality of it being treated as an iList despite the fact that one of them is actually an array and one is actually a list, and any other type that happens to implement that interface, then yes. So array, because the iList set of features really is geared more towards the list than an array, the list does handle it a little bit better, but still, it is a consistent way of not caring which of those two collection types you got when you still want to have functionality like adding additional ones. In this case, I don't care, and realistically, this could have just been an IEnumerable, right? Because all we're going to do with it is call single or default methods, which again work directly on an IEnumerable. And at runtime, because the type actually is a list, if there is a specific implementation that list would handle differently than how an IEnumerable would handle it, it will use the list version because that's what the type really is. Realistically, this could be made private, which I will do. And then I really don't care about what that type is. So we will do that. I'm also going to move that to its own file because I think it makes sense for it to have it, but I created it next to this one because I yanked code out of it. Okay, so that is what we created, is this equipment data class. GetItem by ID is not getting called yet, and this is actually only used by our weapon command. But let's take a look at the weapon command right here. So for anyone that remembers the weapon command from before, it used to look like this. In fact, it looked almost identical to the accessory command. But now when you look at it, it looks like this. And the reason why is I extracted out all of its code. So it now is really just an implementation of, I should say, a named type, effectively, of the equipment command type. Now, someone might be looking at this and asking a question here, and that is, if this is really just this type, it really just is an equipment command of type weapon, why are we using this one instead of just using this? And the reason why is I could use this one, and what it would mean is I would have to define a special constructor. I should say, not constructor, I should refer to it as initialization inside of our DI container to tell it this parameter. This one right here is the specific detail that makes the equipment command different. Is, in addition to just being the type, at least the way that I've got the code right now, I do have to pass in and this code here, which defines these are the command words for weapons. Until I adjust how that logic works, I do need this to be an actual named type. I need to have a type here. So again, it's a dependency we could get rid of, and then we could get rid of this thing, and then we wouldn't need it. But for now, it does live here, because we do have that additional dependency, and I don't want to go that many steps. So let's take a look at our equipment command, which is right here. So when we take a look at this one, you will notice that it does have the command word selector right here, and it passes that on to the base type. So that's why we had to have that. It gets passed on. And it's getting passed on to the base command, because base command requires a way of getting access to what your command words are. So what words are triggered to run that command. And then this is how it defines whether or not this feature should be turned on. Luckily, all equipments are turned on or off together. We don't have specific settings to separate each type of equipment. You can either adjust equipment for the character or not. So this is the code I was talking about right here. This is the code that is almost identical to the accessory command. If you look, it really does look the same. And that is because accessory, armlet, and weapon all were basically the same except for a couple of key differences. And we are going to account for those as we adjust the accessory command to do the same thing. So first things first, let's make the accessory command. Instead of being a base command, it is going to be an equipment command of type accessories. Once we do that, it's going to have a complaint here because it wants me to actually pass in all that data. So let me jump over to the weapon command, and I'm going to just steal this. Because now they're basically going to be the same, except that they're going to basically just have the same constructor. And what equipment data of type accessories. There we go, and then this is accessory command words, and boom, that is gone. Rubix, the chatbot might yell at you. What do you want to link to, Rubix? Because if it's something you want to link to that you know makes sense, you could toss it to one of our moderators and they could post the link in, or you could toss it in Discord if it's something that's not like relevant to the. Should the accessories class be named singular? S&B. Now, I would agree. Yes, it should be. Let's wait to do that rename for a minute. So in order to make sure that happens, let's do this. Rename to accessory. So it had been plural because we were using this also as the collection class. So we were using it kind of like it was an enum, except that it was a full type. Hey, Simon, welcome. I just wanted to remind everyone that the little dino arms... Yeah, that's a that is a clip in here that that you could absolutely post, Rubix. Just I can't make Nightbot leave you alone right now, but so Renee, yeah, the oh, thank you, Stoolpenner. There are a handful of things you can do. So some of the ways that you can help with that are having a suite of unit tests that cover each different one, and make sure that the unit tests actually cover all the various cases. Other than that one, what I would recommend is caution in the way that, like, you take your most complicated one and you bring it over, and then you just piece at a time remove things. So the smaller you know shifts you can make, the better. That's also part of the reason why I recommend you create the duplication first, is so that you can carefully look to see what are the variances between these. Because what people will do, so we created this with the intention that we were going to extract this. So we paid careful attention to what distinguished each one. So the distinguishing pieces are this, and I will explain what they are. In weapons, weapons need to know what character they're for. So in the weapon case, we're passing in both the ID or the equipment ID, as well as the character name. With the other ones, so the accessory and the armlet, we do not have to pass the character name because all characters use the same accessories and armlets. With the accessory, the difference there is the accessory is possible to not be equipped. So that comes into play, and I will show you where that is. The equipment command right here, this at line 83, where we check to make sure that the value is not null right here, this actually only happens in an accessory. So normally when we replaced a piece of equipment and we wanted to save the one that you had originally used, that's what this one here is. We say, okay, hey, we grab the existing ID before we equip the new one to get like what piece of equipment did they have on, and we're gonna move that to their inventory so that they keep the item, they don't just lose it. When we do that, we only do that for so it only is possible in an accessory to have not had an item equipped. But we just kept the check anyway because the check doesn't hurt for weapons and armor. So the way that I made sure that was okay is I added this feature to weapons and armor, and then I just said, hey, yeah, it's fine. On the other ones, we are passing in the value. So notice on equipment data, we're getting ID, passing in the character name, regardless of which one's actually getting called. And yes, exactly, Renee. It's caution and tests where possible, and I would recommend going through it piece at a time. A lot of it's just being super careful. Welcome, Twisted. Hello, greetings. Average Guy, welcome. Isn't there a whitelist? Yes, Rubik's. At some point I need to add you to the whitelist so you can just post links. Sadly, Nightbot doesn't let me just say, subscribers are on the whitelist. If it did, then that would be much better, because for the most part, I would be cool with our subscribers posting links, with the idea being that we do have a set of moderators that can help clamp down on stuff as well. Yep. Those are the main things. Get stuff tested so you can see if it fails, and try to be careful. Okay, the last thing that was interesting, and here's the other deviation in them that I need to put in, which was this. I didn't have a great way around this. I need to translate from type into an address. So this is how I get what address they are in the system. So if we take a look at where this is called, when we get equipment, I tell it, it says, hey, get character equipment. Okay, here's the selector of the address right there. So that's how it determines where to check. We're going to need to use that in each one of these spots, I think. So we'll probably, ooh, that's a good point. Maybe I should just do this at the beginning. I'll probably do that at the beginning. We'll extract that out. That's an address selector based on that. I wonder if we can do that earlier. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. Stoolpenner is Rubik's proxy linker. Nice. The book Working Effectively with Legacy Code has some good advice. Yes. Yes, exactly. What Simon mentions. That is one of my favorite books. And one of the reasons why I really liked it when I read it is it gave me confidence that some of the things I was doing that felt wrong at the time were probably not as wrong as I thought. Because some things that you have to do when working with code is like, and it doesn't, and the funny thing is, it says legacy code, but really I would argue that it's really just working effectively with code, because even if you do have things tested, you still run into the same kinds of challenges that book discusses. And the idea is that even if you're writing a greenfield project, you are accessing sometimes dependencies that you do need to keep at arm's length for one reason or another, and follow the same practices as that. Because even if your project is greenfield, you're going to access some other library, you're going to access a third-party library, it's going to be a system library, something like that. You're going to be accessing other code that's either out of your control or that you don't want to have determining the structure of your code. One of the few books written with a solid grounding in reality. Yes, that is very. Yes, it is a very solidly grounded book. Yes, Renee, it is very good for that kind of thing, and we'll definitely explain how to do some of that. Also, Steve Smith has a course on Pluralsight that I believe is all about refactoring. It's mostly like I believe it's a recipe style thing for like how to refactor certain types of stuff to in certain ways. So I don't think it's just a general how do you refactor out duplication, but it is about that. Okay. There's also a book called Refactoring, which would probably have some good advice on that as well. Okay, so we changed that. We want to change the accessory command to do the same thing. So first off, let's confirm what this does. So accessory, yep, we do a validity check. I know that. Getting accessories, doing that. Just reviewing to make sure that we didn't miss anything before I nuke this code. And then that's doing that, and again, the check's not there, but that's fine, because this one doesn't need it, so we're going to nuke all of that. And part of that is because I so recently made that change that created this duplication, that I can somewhat remember, like, because we copy-pasted and only changed, like, 3 places in that code. That's how we know how consistent it is, aside from variable names. Obviously, we did do variable names. Remove equipment constraint. What? Wait, what? Oh, accessories is not equipment yet. Derp. Is match. Yep, I need the is matching stuff. Does weapon have those yet? I don't think I put that on weapon yet. I think it's still complaining about that too, isn't it? Oh, it's abstract, so it's not complaining. These are all complaining. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. We'll come back to that. We're going to leave that compiler error there and fix it in a minute. Because I want to just get all 3 of these at the same time. Because I want to. So armlets are also going to be equipment. And then the armlet command is going to do the exact same thing as the accessory command, which is this. Let's review this just to make sure there was nothing weird in this one. I'm fairly certain that it did nothing weird, so that is grab that. That is do those checks, the is valid check on armlet, and that. Yep, nothing weird there. Grabs those, grabs that, does that. Keep that, check that value, do that, remove message. Yep, these are identical. Okay. So this is armlet command words, which hopefully that's typed correctly. There's the armlet command. This is going to be armlets, which, speaking of, let's make a to-do to rename this. To-do, rename to armlet. Equipment data armlet. What? Oh, this is an equipment command. Equipment command of type armlets. And then that calls that, passing in those values. Perfect. Do that, do that. There we go. So many books assume you have a mythical unicorn, otherwise known as a comprehensive suite of unit tests available to you. Yes, Renee is correct. It's actually one of the reasons why when I actually talk with people about unit testing their projects, it's one of the reasons why I actually try to discourage. So when teams are doing this, I try to discourage the use of the code coverage metric as being part of your build. That's not to say that looking at code coverage is wrong, because it's not. Code coverage is valuable to review, to find where you are missing tests, to add some later. But that should be a decision you make, that you say, yes, we want to make sure this piece is tested, and it's not tested well enough yet. What I try to encourage teams to avoid is doing code coverage for the sake of getting close to a percentage. And the reason I discourage that is because it tends to encourage creation of tests for the sake of having a test, not because the test was needed. And what ends up happening when you add too many or too many poor tests, even worse, is it becomes really hard to change. So the scenario that Renee is talking about here, with it being a job to maintain, it is, but the thing is that it becomes even bigger and more difficult if you have put too many brittle tests around things just to get testing there. because some code is legitimately just always going to be hard to test, and the decision then comes down to, well, do we want to cover every single case, or do we want to generally get it covered with an integration test and say, hey, yeah, like we'll cover the pieces of that we can easily, and the ones that don't, we'll cover with an integration test just to know generally does it work and not handle every single case. And then if something goes wrong, then we'll add a test to cover it, and then it becomes regression tests to maintain and avoid bugs. Hey, Mobaba, welcome, greetings. Okay, so that'll get us an accessory command. We have an accessory command, we have an armlet command, and we should have a weapons command. So there they are. So those commands exist. They are now nothing. They don't do anything. They are just there to be named instances of the equipment command. That's really where all of the data is now. So this is the code. It's the equipment command. And it, well, theoretically should work. The armlets renamed to armlet, I'm not going to do that yet, but I am going to implement the missing members here, which are going to be these ones, the isMatch by ID, and the isMatch by item ID, and the isMatch by equipment ID. So for that, I want to reference all armlets, which is already on here, right there. Which, actually, do I need to do that? We are equipment data. All that single default. Hang on. Equipment data. All get my ID. Equipment data. Hang on. All of those types there. Do we need that anymore? Is matched by ID. Oh! Wait, hang on a second. That's checking the individual item. If the individual item is a match. Yeah, not actually get the type, so these go away. All the static stuff goes away. And we now just try to determine, hey, is this a match based on these values? So, yeah. That works nicely. So the cool thing here is this. Because of the way we wrote this, we made character name optional. In the armlets, we don't care about character name. We're just going to ignore it. It'll be null. We won't use it, so it doesn't even matter that it's null, because it's not even going to happen. Let's see. Hang on. Test what's expensive if it fails and what's likely to fail because you're probably going to break it in the future. Yes, so Simon's correct. You want to test the areas that are going to be changed frequently and test the areas that absolutely critically need to be accurate. So for example, if you're writing code that deals with money, distributes money, things like that, test it out the wazoo, make sure it is totally accurate, and make sure that the code that determines things about money has like 0 dependencies so that the tests are not brittle. So you need to write it in such a way that it's basically just dealing with numbers and things like that. So that's what you do, is you structure your code such that the really, really critical pieces of logic have 0 dependencies, that all the data just gets passed in so they're easier to test, and this reduces the brittleness of the tests. And additionally, anything that is frequently changing, so if you did not manage to get your code to a nice open-closed principle way where you can extend it without changing it, and you have a point that has frequent changes, those locations also, you want to get them tested, but you need to be careful. And the reason I say that is you need to make sure that you are doing tests on the state for those locations and try to avoid doing behavioral tests. Because if you have code that changes frequently and you're doing tests on the behavior of the code instead of just the changes to state that it makes, you're going to run into a problem where that test is going to change all the time as well, and it just becomes hard to change that code. And so instead of reducing the number of bugs, all it does is just make that code take longer to work with. If a method is private in a class and you want to test it, you have a couple of options. You can either move the code into another class and test through that class, or there are ways of calling private methods. If you really, really want to keep it private and still call it, you can do that. For example, through reflection, you can actually call that method, but that's an approach I would recommend caution on. It's not quite as dangerous because it's in a test, so if you do ever rename or something like that, then the test will break. Don't ever do that in like code that's not the test. So first off, one important thing is unit tests are like your production code. You need to treat them like that, but there is an exception for those, because breaking the build alerts you to the problem. If it's something that would break the build if it messed up, it is okay to do that because you'll know about it immediately. So exactly, as Simon mentions, it normally suggests you need something like, that's why I was saying, like, the first I was like, yeah, you probably want to pull that out or something like that if you need to do it. And then occasionally you don't need to test that private method. Sometimes that private method is just there to essentially name a piece of functionality, not really hide a complex piece. And so when it is just used there to make your code more descriptive, but not really encapsulate, you know, significant enough functionality to require testing, you can just test the method that calls it, and it'll get tested along with it. So unit test does not mean has to just be one method. It means unit of functionality. If the private methods called by a public method encapsulate the same unit of functionality, you can still have a unit test around it. Yep. Let's see. So is match by ID. In this case, that would mean item ID. Nope, not item ID. Oh, it's called value right now, isn't it? Value equals. Okay, so. So this would be value equals ID. Done. So there's the first method. This one is determined based on item ID equals item ID. And then this last one is whoops, not equipment ID. This one is, oh, it is equipment ID. Equipment ID equals equip ID. Okay. There we go. And so that we can see them, I'm just going to shift those down onto their own lines. So there we go. That's what we need to write for armlets, and we're going to do the same thing for the other ones. Also, refactoring from encapsulation and object-oriented to functional composition architecture makes a lot of the fun and games go away, as your average functional service is both stateless and smaller on average. In general, you want to check for the effects of the private method that are visible. Yes, exactly what Renee mentions there. Yep, that is precisely correct. That is most of the time what you want to do with those types of tests. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. I want to get rid of the collection off of that, as well as the static method. So all statics leave this. We then implement the missing members. And we're going to do the same thing here that we did in our last one. So we're going to go ahead and say that we want to return value equals ID. And then on this one, we want to say return that item ID equals item ID. And our equipment class actually already handles making sure that the value, item ID, and equipment ID get set correctly. So you might be asking, but wait a minute, Brendan, you have just made the accessory and armlet identical. And that's true, but weapon is not identical. So I'm willing to take the fact that these two are going to have a bit of duplication for not adding the complexity to get rid of that and still allow weapon to be different. Yes, so no, it's not exactly return. Essentially what this means is the left-hand side is the declaration of some kind of a piece of functionality. So this is the declaration of a method right here on my class. And then the right-hand side of this arrow is an expression, a lambda expression in this case, that will essentially be this method, it happens that because this is a it's not exactly return. It's really just saying, hey, I'm going to do a single expression as the entire body of this method instead of declaring the whole method. So, for example, this is identical code. So this is the exact same thing that we just saw. So this code, again, is the same thing. So it could be written the exact same way. So these could be written like this, or you can just shorten it up and do that. So that just says, hey, this is the single expression that is the entirety of the method. So, yep. Technically, we could do the same thing up here, except it doesn't really do anything. So you can implement a constructor this way as well, except that there's no real thing to do there because we don't have a body of this expression. So because it's empty, there's not really a reason to do that there. So, yep. So it's called expression-bodied members, which is a bit of functionality that's been around in C# for a couple of years now. Yep. You can also, so you'll also notice that this is the same syntax that you use for lambda expressions in, say, your extension method-based link command, like methods that you can use in C#. So you'll see it there as well. It really just means, hey, next thing is going to be a lambda expression. Okay, so that's those, and now let's go take a look at weapons. So, weapons. Weapons need to be a little bit special. So, first off, I want each one of these types of weapons to set their character names. So, first off, let's add a property to weapons because they're a little bit weirder. So, we're going to add in the character name. So this will have the character name. We're only going to have a getter. We're not going to have a setter, which means in the constructor, we need to pass in this value, which means that car names needs to be in here. Car name, right there. Oops, it's got to go before that because it doesn't have a default value. So we'll put it here. So car name will be right there, and then car name equals car name. Car name. If you're still, do you have a nice course online? Your French? I actually do have a DevIQ course that there are links to that does talk about the new features of C#. I've got stuff on C# 6 and C# 7 in there. I do not yet have a version that goes over all the new features of C# 8. So we're technically using C# 8 here in this project. 8 does not actually have a full release yet, so not really a big thing to learn there. It's made to scare newcomers. Average guy. It is not made to scare newcomers. It really is meant to be pretty easy, nice to work with, and I think it actually is. And I'm going to clear out some of this code here in a second. Hey, Sourceify, welcome, greetings. So much stuff using lambdas nowadays. Exactly. Yes. Simon's correct. So, yeah, there you go. See, you're a C++ developer. Yep. See, and that's why. What I was about to point out is that, and by the way, I'm planning on doing. I'm thinking about doing some C++ on stream soon. But what I was going to say is, for the most part, I think it's confusing to people that come into C# and haven't seen it before. But once you're in C# for a while, you're going to see it in a lot of places. You're going to see it both in expression-bodied members, expression-bodied function, expression-bodied properties, but you're also going to see it in link expressions. So because there are so many lambdas getting used all over the place, I think it's going to be more common. And anyone coming out of JavaScript, for example, because that's the same syntax JavaScript uses for the equivalent feature in their language, I think a lot of people are going to see it and it's going to start to make sense. It's not to scare newcomers, it's to make the ES6JS function. Oh, there you go. There you go, Simon. No, so the funny thing is, I actually, if I'm not mistaken, those were implemented at almost the same time. I don't know who actually did that arrow syntax first, whether it was C# or JavaScript, but yes, they're both in there. And welcome. Yeah, we're thinking about, so interestingly, I was thinking about doing some C++ specifically for this project that we're working on. So we'll see if we get to it. Anyway, so I'm passing in the character name there. which means down here, I'm going to need to pass that in because it's yelling at me. Yep. So this one needs to be cloud, and whoops, not 0. Let's just put cloud in for everyone, because I think the system's going to complain less about that, and then I can adjust to everyone's names, because I'm adding an additional parameter. And I'm concerned there is an extra parameter I'm missing, and that's why it is yelling at me in all of these. So this is... whoops, there is no Sephiroth? We'll do that for now. No, we're gonna do Sephiroth. There we go. I'm not sure why I'm doing this one. There we go. There are no words for him right now. That's fine. Okay, so he's that one. Wait, what? What? There you go. That's Vincent. This is Kate Sith. Yeah. Kate. There we go. Yuffie. Sid. There we go. And I will be back to chat in a second, don't you worry. So if you are saying stuff over there, because I see someone typing. Might just be my bot, I can never tell. I just see text scrolling a little bit there. You're not a fan of Renee, you're not a fan of expression-bodied members yet. Oh, okay. So there is actually a use case I really like for expression-bodied members. It is the simple one-line method. That's the place that I like them. When you're going to do a simple little thing and your goal is extracting out a Boolean that was otherwise going to be in your code. For example, where's a good example of that? I want to show one real fast because I think it is a cool thing to say that those are the places that I like putting them in. If you are extracting out like a, where is it? This. So this is just a quick little method that's inside of an if statement, and I didn't want the complex stuff, and I wanted to be able to name it. So I said can override bit restriction, and if you take a look, can override bit restriction is just this little thing here, and you can just take a look at that, and it's like, oh yeah, cool, okay, got it. That can be private. But that's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, it's a little one-liner thing, and it really is two pieces. It's, okay, so it's either this or this, so I wrote it like that, and it works fine. It's a single expression piece, and I don't think they're that bad. What you don't want to do is put anything too complicated in there. I think they're good for little pieces like that. But again, it comes down to preference, so if you and your team don't like that syntax, you don't have to use it. You can just, do standard full statement body implementations of your methods and properties. What can you do in WPF to practice? So I'm going to guess on your name. First off, welcome, Ergazi. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. To practice WPF, I would recommend building some kind of an app that you are interested in working on. So if you do want to learn to use WPF or UWP or anything like that, just start making something. For learning it, one of the big things that I would recommend that you look into is you want to make sure that you understand all the various types of layouts, and there's a lot of pieces to understand in order to not make WPF terrible. Short answer. You're going to want to learn how the various different types of controls work. You're going to want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the MVVM process. So I'll type that just so it's clear what I said. So model view model process. If you don't know how that concept works, you're going to want to make sure you have a good understanding of that. The last thing that I do want to mention, make sure that you understand how all the binding in WPF works. So big things, look at binding, look at templating objects, templating controls in WPF, look at how the layouts work, and make sure you understand MVVM, and then decide if you want to use an MVVM framework is another big one. But those are the big things I'd recommend for anyone that's looking into WPF. Make sure you understand those concepts. Obviously, you do have to learn C# and XAML in order to do it as well. Why in most languages the Elvis operator is that, but in C# docs call Elvis that one, when we also have that. You know, I don't know why they use the term Elvis operator at all, to be honest. I've never been a big fan of that name for the types. I just call them what they are. So the first one that you referred to there, I call a ternary operator, and then the second one I call a null conditional operator. And I do want to clarify that that operator, the question mark dot, is a null conditional operator. It is not a null propagation operator like some people would call it. And the reason I want to draw that distinction is that what it does is it does propagate nulls. That is what it does. But the operator itself is a null conditional operator. It's just a distinction on naming, kind of like how there is a difference between parameter and argument, and they are not the same thing, though they are closely related. So I consider them to be the same kind of distinction there, just for clarity of communication. Simon, learn to do MVVM by hand. Don't get tied up learning a framework. Most are yeah, exactly. So Simon is correct there. Everything that you could do with a framework you could do without in terms of MVVM. Some people like the framework style, hence why I would suggest you look into one if you think it's going to be helpful, and if you don't, then don't use one. But yes, it is correct. You should learn how to use it without a framework first, so you have a better understanding of how that works. Do I have a tutorial on putting ASP.NET Core web apps on Linux? I do not have a tutorial on that, but plenty of other people have made them, Sourceify. So I'm sure you can find one. I think Scott Hanselman did one even, and I know a lot of other people have as well. Should you learn WPF alongside C# or focus on console-based application before moving on? Harlem, so my first recommendation is make sure you have at least a reasonable understanding of C#. If you have a basic understanding of C#, I think you can probably move on. So write a couple of simple C# console apps first so that you're not focused on the GUI as much, and you can make sure that you actually understand C#. Part of the trick there is, though, don't get too tied down into that, because the binding nature of working with WPF and the fact that you do want to do that means that you're going to do a reasonable amount of code that's not C#, because you do want things to bind. So instead of solving those problems with C#, you want to make sure you solve them with WPF. So in some ways, I think not knowing how to do it in C# will force you to do it the declarative way, which in the long run is probably going to be better for you, because that's actually going to have you using WPF the correct way instead of working around it. Yep, for Linux is basically install .NET Core libraries. Yeah, pretty much Mobabo, but someone might, you know, like, actually want to see, like, how it's, like, have a walkthrough. Some people just like having a walkthrough, and I cannot fault them for that. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to remove, first off, since we passed in those values, the equipment type. Okay, so equipment data is what's actually going to have the equipment type. So, we'll make this not be abstract for a moment. So I'm temporarily making weapons not abstract, so that I can force it to implement the missing members, because as an abstract it doesn't have to implement the missing members, and thus my tooling does not help me. So now I'm going to make it abstract again, but these are still allowed to be here, but now their children don't have to have them. Okay, so not going to do that because we're no longer going to have that as a collection in here. And then weapons are just going to reference based on this. So is match by ID is going to say, we'll do it like this to start. We'll return car name equals car name, and value equals ID. Which, now that I think about it, this is a faster check. So we'll do these ones first. So we'll say the value is that and that. And then on the next one, we're going to do basically the same thing, except instead of checking ID and value, it's going to be item ID. And this will be item ID. And this one will be equipment ID and equip ID. There we go. Okay. Again, I'm going to do expression bodies for this because I like them. And an expression body here, again, because I like it. And then lastly, right there. Again, as I mentioned, if that's not your preference, don't use expression bodies. And go with the preference based on your team, too. So, like, if the rest of your team doesn't like expression bodies, don't use expression bodies. But if they do like them, use them. So it's all up to you what you want to use with all of this stuff. There are options. So these basically become named weapon types that just pass in that type. Under the Digit, welcome back. Coming in with a 3-month resub. That is awesome, Under the Digit. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, and you should now be hatching out of your egg. So that is awesome. Not from visual, because just because a lot of the project's ideas I found were GUI based. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, if you just want to learn C#, you can learn a lot about C# without using WPF. You can do a lot of things in a console application. For example, the original Twitch bot that I wrote that we used on the channel, when we first wrote it, it was entirely a console application that just ran the whole time. So connecting into chat, doing all that kind of stuff does not need a GUI, because we actually built all the configuration into chat commands. So there were literally chat commands for creating new commands, chat commands for creating aliases, chat commands for adjusting permissions, chat commands for all the things. Like, you don't need a UI. Sephiroth, Vincent, Kate Sith, Yuffie, Sid, Eris, Red, Barrett, Tifa, Cloud. Looks like yes, Renee. I did rename all the parameters. Okay. Equipment data. So it's going to create a list of this. So the equipment data objects that we create are what are going to determine this. So because this is a collection of this, if we make an iList of the equipment data objects... No, because this is going to be based on which ones we have the dependency on. So this is going to be all items of type. That is a good question. Filters elements of it based on a specified type. I have a question about how this works. Link of type child class. Promise is associated with inherits from toolstrip menu item, and that appears in my list of items and areas because it does not. Okay. Maintain the return type. Yeah. Okay. Toolstrip. Where the type actually is that. Okay, so of type, I think is going to be fine. I think of type in this case, because it's going to be a weapon type and not the specific weapon type, I think that's going to work correctly. Okay, you've got a project for a bank console-based app because I think that's fun and I have lots of ideas for things to implement when I learn more. Harlem, that is actually an awesome thing to implement. Things dealing with money actually work surprisingly well in console applications because a lot of times the way that these services work, whether or not your input is coming through, say, standard input to a console application or through some other mechanism, doesn't really change how it works. So a lot of financial applications use services where data is sent into it either through like a messaging system or something like that, and then it processes transactions. That's fairly common, especially e-commerce and other things like that. You'll find systems that will deal with money in that sort of way. So that kind of example through a console app is actually good. And yes, Harlem, many of us have worked with self-taught developers. It's very common. In fact, most of us, even if we... So I have a college degree. I have a degree in computer science, but I learned to program before I was in a computer science program, for example. So most of us learned to, like many developers, that's not to say all of them, some people did learn to program in their computer science courses, some learned it beforehand, and it really just depends. So some people go to boot camps, some people don't pick up any kind of piece of paper that says they know how to program, and they just learn entirely on their own. Whatever you want to do, go for it. And yes, Renee, that's what I was just confirming. It should handle that. Retro remake of Super from... You did computer science like 5 years back in college, then went to do business at university. You did well, but after you realized you made the wrong decision. In C++ and Java, but a degree in liberal arts. Nice, Katrina. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you just need to know how to program. You do not actually need a computer science degree to do this job. That's not to say that the information that you learn in a computer science program isn't useful to programming, because it is, but it's also not required for programming. There are a lot of things that are useful to programming. Let me see how many errors we have. It's probably still a bunch. I'm going to do a compile, and we're going to take a look. Whew, yep. Okay, so I changed some types here. So we no longer want to... what's this getting called by? Popper command? Okay. We'll change those. So the popper command will get adjusted when we do this. So that's set character equipment, set character. So get and set character equipment. Let's get rid of those. Character name and the byte for the equipment ID. Yeah, that is always going to be correct. And then getting is always like that. We pass in the accessor. So that's the actual implementation now. And we don't need these separate pieces. So that is get a weapon. And that's from weapon address. This is... Okay, so this can go away. So can armlet. Because there's nothing about... These are exactly identical. And accessory is the exact same as well, I believe. It's exactly the same code? Yes. Yep. The only one that is slightly different is the fact that that one doesn't specify byte on here, but since they are bytes, they don't need to. So, other than that, they are the same, the only difference being the type, and I already wrote the code that does that. So, get character weapon, get character, so that's 111. Get character name, done exactly the same. Read memory from this, same thing. Only difference is this value. We have extracted that out. So these are entirely worthless. That is bytes 0. That'll return back 1 byte. Should return back a U short. No. No, it shouldn't. I know I said it does, but it's not going to. It's going to return back a byte. Whoops. I need this. Because I didn't actually steal the code that does that. Which I should have. Where T is equipment? Do I really need that? Do I need that? I'm not sure I need that. Okay, so I need to get it based on this. So the byte is going to be this right here. And then this is not weapon address. This is going to be the address selector of that, like so. which means this becomes a reference on the end of this. And I think that's the code we need, and this should not need to be here because it is totally unused. So let's borrow this code here, and we're going to put this on the, delete these because I said I can. I'm going to go to the parent object, and that is going to be right there. No, that is going to be multi-line there. There we go. Okay. Way nicer. Oh man, is that so much cleaner. If you have some temperature, you should. Never too late to change. Have a guy on my team that's changing from a business role after more than 10 years of programming on the side. Yeah, exactly. No, it is absolutely something you can do, switching into programming. And yes, as Simon mentions, yes. Huge thing Simon's mentioning right there. Really big idea that everybody should be paying attention to. What Simon is actually talking about is one of the things that makes people so valuable when they switch into programming from another field is that they bring with them experience that is different from that of the developers. And that is the case in two ways. First off, they might have a background in something that is helpful. So, for example, I know some people that are former lawyers that became developers, and so they have they're very good at dealing with that kind of stuff. And there are people that have come from all kinds of fields, and they bring in information, they bring in knowledge. So not just about their field necessarily, but they also bring in information about how other businesses work and those sorts of things. The big concept that Simon was mentioning there is the idea of empathy and understanding things from the user perspective. So I have been a developer for so long, for example, that I do my best to empathize with and understand the users of my program instead of just saying things like, yeah, they just need to figure out how to use it, because that's like one of the worst things that we do. And I mean, I'm guilty of that from time to time as well. We all are. That's like, we build a thing and we're like, what do you mean you didn't just use it the way that I intended it to be used? That's why I wrote it that way. But we need to understand like how the users are doing things, what they're building, and they've experienced some other aspects of that a lot of times. So someone that came out of business, maybe they're out of marketing, they've worked with our applications that do that kind of stuff. They understand that field, so they bring new ideas, different ways of thinking that aren't as common within the developer world because we are kind of insulated. So really cool stuff there. You're an insight analyst right now and do a lot of work around consumer insight and consumer journey. Yes, so Harlem, that would be a fantastic switch to development, because you will bring in ideas that are specifically related to consumers, who, by the way, are the users of a lot of the applications we build. So, yep, very, very good stuff. Bite. Good. That's what we want to have. Let's remove that because it's gone. So this no longer knows about those data objects, which is good. Let's see how close we are. Yeah, as Simon mentions, that is a really good one there. Set character equipment does not need to pass in a T. It does pass in the equipment ID, but then we need to say x dot. Whoops. Nope. We need to call this the address selector. Yep, we call the address selector. And whatever our T is, we return back the correct type for that, and it'll return back the one that we need. There we go. So that sets the character thing there. This adds an item, and adding an item is currently different from this. But get the equipped Okay, so this one accesses memory and thus passes that in. This one accesses memory and thus passes this in. This one is just adding an item, so it does not need to know the type of the object because all items are just items. Perfect. Okay. Just gotta think this through. Make sure we don't mess this up. Okay, so now our code over here in the popper command, which I said we were going to break this. We knew we were going to because we got rid of this. So we need to change this so it is... So this is setting the weapon. Set character equipment. And hide that. Excuse me. And we're saying x.weapon.address. So that and that is the armlet. X.armlet.address. So that's not working yet. Don't worry about it. It's because I didn't change the name of the method yet. And then this one is going to be accessory.address. Okay, couple of things we need to adjust here. This is using, so this tried to access armlets, but I need to give it an equipment data object instead. So let's actually, it's just an equipment data of type, of the types that it needs. It needs weapons, it needs, oh, that's funny. Because we can get rid of accessory, it didn't need the accessory data. Okay. Set character equipment. So accessory sets easily. I forgot about that because a max value byte is actually what it stores when it's empty. Okay, so weapons, all weapons isn't what we're doing. We need weapon data. So let's do that. So it is equipment data of type weapons, and so we'll call this weapon data, and we will initialize that from the constructor, so it adds it right on there. And then we're going to do the same thing but for armlets, and we're going to call this armlet data underscore armlet data. Again, initialize that from the constructor, and then down here so this was choosing the lowest one for each character, which I happen to know that that's just 0 each time, because of the way that this works. So, our start weapon equals weapon data get by ID, and that is for the 0 for the character name that we pass in, and that's your starting weapon. And we're going to pass in the .weapon ID. Okay, and then for armlets, we're going to do the same thing, set character equipment. Hang on, I see people talking in chat there. Just give me a second. And instead of this, we're going to say underscore armlet data dot get by ID 0, and then dot equipment ID. Why does weapon have weapon ID still? Why does it have weapon ID? It should be setting equipment ID, I think. Because weapon is equipment. What sets equipment ID? Equipment ID, I'm not setting it yet. Okay. But it's all going to get set the same way. So equipment ID is going to be this. And then that's going to be there. So equipment ID is going to be this. And then which one's weapon offset? Weapon offset is the short defined after the character name, which is after the type offset. Okay, I'm gonna need to figure that one out. Weapon ID we don't want to be using. We want to be using that one. I might need... So weapon might be different. I'm going to need to figure that one out. I'm going to need to think about that one. Equipment ID. How do I get equipment ID? Let me check chat, and then I will get to that in a moment. I don't want to miss everything in chat. Yes. Everybody's right. User experience seems to be under-related nowadays, possibly related to the reduction in the number of complex desktop line of business applications. What is an armlet? A small armor or disembodied limb? It'd be like bracers and that kind of thing, Simon, is what it means. It's just the name they use for that. It's, you know, like minor armored stuff. Oh, it's just Simon. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Simon. Yep, I will ignore now. Thank you. Hang on one second, everyone. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that, Stool Penner. I just had to put my invisibility cloak on for a second. Let me reference something. Okay. I have two adjustments that I make to the weapon, specifically. The weapon ID, so the equipment ID is special when it's a weapon. So what that means is so the hang on, let me just think this through. So value is going to be 0 for these. So the equipment ID for okay, so hang on. Oh man, I need to rename value. Let's go here for a second. Okay. Let me just think this through. Go to non-weapons so I can think about this. The bronze bangle is item ID 256. That means that armlet type has the number 256. It has 0 listed here. If I take a look at the armlet, it passes in as its type offset, I believe. Type offset is 256. So that accounts for the change in type. With the weapons, there is an additional weapon one, so it's 0 plus the offset from having been but those are going to change based on whose it is, which is fine still, I think. Okay, so if I take a look at the items, let me have a look one more time. So Cloud's ID of 0 needs to have 105 added to be an item and 0 added to be a weapon, which is its equipment ID. So, okay. So, item ID and equipment ID are not the same thing, which we know. When we pass in Clouds, it is... Okay, wait, what? 120... It starts at 128? Okay, I believe you. And then 0 is adjusted for the weapon, which means that the first parameter, the type offset, gets us to weapons in general. And then we add in that offset to get to the one that we're supposed to be on. No, that's the one to determine the equipment. So straight up, that one just is the equipment ID for these. So the weapon offset is the equipment ID on these ones. Oh, it is the weapon offset plus that. Okay, so yes, so weapon ID is correct. This is the equipment ID. Straight up. That's just the equipment ID. Okay. So that's gone. That does need to get set, because that only exists here. Now, here's the question. Do I make it so that equipment ID can be set in here, at which point we are calling it after the previous constructor? So that is okay. However, I would rather pass that in. So let's think about how Armlet's going to do that for equipment. So if we look at the items again and look at Armlet, it passed in that. Okay, so it has equipment ID, so that's the value. So that'd be the 0 for the bronze bangle. And we need to add in the type offset. So that's adding in the type offset. So we need to turn the 0 into that. So I think that's fine. I believe we can get away with this. So here's what I'm going to do. First off, equipment ID is not an item ID. It is going to be, so on weapons, it's going to be this value here. So it is the weapon offset. So where are we setting item ID right now? This is the weapon offset. So yes, value plus weapon offset. So this is how we're determining the equipment ID. Let me confirm what we're doing with equipment in terms of passing that data on to items to determine the item ID. We're adding the type offset. So type offset is set. The item ID is value plus type offset. But isn't that what this is? Value plus type offset? Wait, no. In the other equipment, it is just the value, isn't it? On armors and accessories? Wait, hang on. The value that it uses to set those is just this, right? Let me confirm that. Accessories start at 0 in the actual data in the system. Yes. Okay. So those actually do start at 0, which means, okay, I had that wrong. So the equipment ID in equipment is just the value. Some values can be a short, but that's not equipment IDs. Okay, there we go. Let me check out chat for a second. We need a poof effect for that. Yeah, Renee, it would be nice if we had a poof effect when I turn off my webcam. A chat triggered poof command. Yes, that also turns off the camera automatically. Lost in the memory map. Yeah, Renee. Yeah, Simon. So the interesting thing, so I wouldn't call those ones magic numbers because they are tied to a variable in them. But yes, there's a couple that are a little bit magical. They're specifically tied to what they are, so they're not totally magical. But yes, they could potentially get thrown into a collection that track those a little bit better. They are specific data from the system, so. Does anyone else's stream lag when loading emotes in a channel? Sometimes, yeah, because it does load in a lot more emotes than just that channel's emotes when you do that, because Twitch wants you to be able to use tons of them. That actually makes me wonder, do we even need this? Is this a thing? I think this might be able to go away and we could just use item ID, or, I don't know. Gonna have to think about that. That might be able to go away. Okay, so equipment ID is just the value, because we wrote it as such, unless you are a weapon. So, where did I put the weapon offset? So, I want to do this. Over there, and that should 100% just be a byte. Weapon offset is a thing that it put after character name, which it doesn't even have character name. It's right after the type offset. If you do that, how many things reference this? Armlets, accessories? Does this have words right now? Oh my god, it does. Okay. It's funny that I put that in there. Weapon offset and then words. So then in equipment, I can say plus the weapon offset. Excuse me. Yeah, just value plus weapon offset. And the weapon offset on those ones is 0. So it's not a weapon, it doesn't have a weapon offset. Okay, so that does basically wire those up. Weapons now pass in the correct value for that. We've removed the weapon ID, which means now we have equipment ID. So if I look at the popper command, we're using equipment ID, and then this one is just byte max value because we're emptying it, because they work a little bit differently. Oh, Simon. Yeah, so I do like that, because I think it is a nice way of making sure, like, of helping us get to the correct piece there. Need to fix those. That's fine. I changed those methods just a minute ago. Was there anything else breaking? Or is it just those right now? No, it's just these. Okay, cool. Is type offset not the generic? No, so they're not exactly, because there's two things going on. There are 3 different versions of the ID for any given object. There's the ID that you'd specify it in chat. There is the ID that would be given to it when it is equipped to a character, and there is the ID that would be used for it when it is an item in a character's inventory, in the party's inventory, I should say. So 3 different potential IDs for those. Kind of a pain. So that is the equipment access to the materials. Okay, so we need an equipment data of type weapons object created. Bonk. Bonk. Weapon command is protected now? That's funny. Shouldn't be. It should be that. That was... whoops, that was foolish of me. I let that go in the way that the tooling created it, which is not what we wanted to do. And then it's accessory command, and this is also public. Public. Okay. Set character equipment. Set character equipment. And this last one is the address selector. And it's just weapon. Address, right. Oh, Right, of same name. Yeah, okay. So that's weapon address. What is this? It's memloc. So then there's that there. Greetings, welcome. Welcome to the stream, Adon. Is type offset? No, oh no, that's the question you asked before. Okay. All right, we're gonna find out. I want to do it this way because it's more interesting because I haven't done this yet on this stream. So we're gonna do it this way. Step 1, run this program. Step 2, do the thing I should have done a while ago, which is get this program actually running. Oh, I didn't actually create the services. Sorry, hang on. It doesn't know how to make the equipment datas. I forgot to wire that up in our DI. So DI container needs to know about these new things. So it should have been trying to make equipment data, which it doesn't know how to make. Let's make an extension for that, because I feel like making one. Public static iService collection. We're gonna say register register using yeah, register using we'll say register equipment data. And it's going to take in this iService collection services, plural. And then we're going to say services dot... I think for this application we want to do this. It is of equipment data of type weapons. That, and add singleton of type equipment data armlets, and duplicate the line, put that on here, and we'll make this one be accessories. Now back here, I am just going to add that as a set and just say services.register equipment data. There we go. Now, I don't know if I missed anything here, but we're about to find out. Let me get the... Well, while that's building, I'm going to go ahead and get the game started so we can take a look at that. I think I'm missing something else still, maybe. Nope, apparently not. Apparently that's all the dependencies. So there we go. There were those. Oh, right, because the weapon command and everything like that still exists because I did named versions of the equipment command. So I didn't actually create new stuff there. So that worked fine. Okay, let's go ahead to Cloud's equipment page. We're going to connect the bot to the chat. Seems to still work there. I don't know if this is going to work. We're about to find out. Weapon Cloud 1. So he should switch to the Mithril Saber. Oh, man. Weapon Cloud 15. Switches to Ultima Weapon. And there are the Buster Sword and the Mithril Saber that we've now previously had. If we look... oh, we do have a few armlets to choose from. So we'll be on the Bronze Bangle, which is the starting one. Do I have any accessories? No accessories. Thanks, Stolepenner. Yes, that does work. Let's say Armlet Cloud 1. Changes us to the Iron Bangle, and if we look, there's the Bronze Bangle again. Let's try changing to one that we don't have in there, so we will do Armlet Cloud 10. Equip the Rune Armlet. There we go. Okay. Now let's give Cloud an accessory. So, accessory, cloud, 5. It says it gave him the amulet. It did. I don't have another choice, so yep. And I can remove it. Let's give him another accessory. Cloud 2. So he has the earring, the amulet's over here. So it's also putting the item in there, so that is working exactly the way that we wanted it to. So boom, there's a quick confirmation with the actual check going into the game. Now, the reason I'm doing that is it would not be easy to do a unit test of that piece, of the actual integration into changing the memory of the other game, because of the way that works. So, hey, Jenstuck, welcome. So, cool. That big change we just did seems to work. And work pretty nicely, too. Let's test one last thing. I'm going to try the popper command. For anyone that hasn't seen that, prepare for this game to get nasty. Oh, bummer. See, we did end up with a problem. So the popper command had an issue. Let's find out where it was calling from, what went wrong. 10 was not present in the dictionary, so what was it trying to look for? Let's check out the stack trace. Dictionary, character, oh god, oh god. Was it Sephiroth? Was it trying to nuke Sephiroth? Oh man, don't try to kill Sephiroth, that's a mistake. He'll get mad. Character by name. Okay, so popper command line 43. Line 43, is that inside the loop? Yes. Character names all. Do these add themselves? Do they add them? Yes, they add themselves, son of a gun. This guy got us. He got us. Exactly, Jen's Duck. Spoiler alert. Alright, we're going to chance that and see what happens. It should be okay. There's no associated character with him. But we're about to find out. It removed everybody's equipment though, right? Yep. It has not cleared out the items yet because it failed while trying to get rid of Sephiroth. So if we watch that command, bonk, there go all of our items. And our gil is set down to 2. So you end up with two gil, and no items, no equipment. And yes, we go to 2 because it's more insulting to have 2 than 0. Because 2 is just as worthless as 0, but since it's not 0, it's kind of an insult. Also, I would like to have, instead of a remove... What do you want instead of removal of all equipment, Jenstuck? A way to kill Sephiroth? Is that what you're saying? Okay. No, that looks good there. That looks good. Instead of removal, just have unequip. Oh, yeah. Like, so they don't lose them. But then it was just an annoyance to the player because they just have to go re-equip everything. And we actually want to make that as an option for, like, a challenge run. Yeah, but then they could re-equip. So, with this, it actually becomes a really difficult game to play because you are left with, like, not necessarily being able to even do anything. So it will really mess you up if you run into this. So, yep, there is no re-equipping after this, which in some ways is a good thing, in some ways is a terrible thing. Okay, a couple of things I want to mention. No, I'm not ending here. We're going to keep going, but I do want to make sure that I mention everyone that you should take a look at our Discord. It is a great place full of awesome developers that love chatting about stuff. As I point out to people, while DevChatter, we do host a live coding stream here. DevChatter is really about a community of developers that, well, chat about development topics. And if you are interested in that, our Discord is linked over there, and it is a good place to go to chat about coding stuff that interests you and different concepts. So consider it your online user group. In addition, we do have a lot of source code of stuff that we've built in the past out on GitHub. You can take a look at that to see some of our projects that we've worked on, open source projects. So feel free to go there, dig into our code or anything like that. And if you are enjoying the stream at all, be sure to click the follow button to make sure you get notified when we go live. Okay. And back to this. So I like that now we have separated this out. So this is just in 3 different places based on the type, and that works pretty nicely. I'm now debating if I can get rid of the ID, but there are a couple of other little bits I want to do. We've got some to-dos on the names that we want to adjust. So first off, going along with what S&B mentioned, these should rename to weapon instead of weapons, plural. And then, oh yes, it figured it out! Oh yeah! Thank you, Jens Duck. Much appreciated, both for the compliment and the 10 biddies. So the awesome thing is that it figured out on this rename that I probably want to rename those types as well, and I do. So thank you for figuring that out. That can remain the same. So very cool. And Jens Duck, be sure to check your gill balance. Is it still? No, it's not running. Never mind. Hey, Brave Cobra, welcome. So that should have renamed to that. Equipment, cloud weapons. Yep. Okay, good. And then on armlets, command, equipment command. Let's get that out of here. Where's armlets? Right here. So armlets, we're going to rename this as well, losing the armlet part of that. Losing that, we're going to remove the comment. On accessories, we are going to rename this as well. So that is going to rename to accessory singular. What else is it trying to change here? Whoops. Private string accessory command words, accessory. Nope, don't change that. We need both of those to work. All weapons. Nope, we need that to work as well. Okay, leave those alone, please. Fantastic. Your bot has so many more bits because the API that Twitch runs its ad service is kind of quickly made. Jens Duck, what do you mean? Your bot has more bits than you do? Like, does your bot watch ads for bits or something like that? That's weird. Now the hilarity being that rename that I just did affected all of these things. Look at all those changes. There's that is removal of an S. That is removal of the S's again. Jens Duck, thank you for the 10 additional biddies. And Brave Cobra, I don't have the bot running right now. I will get it started here in a second once I confirm all these changes and commit them. I will start it up and you can take a look at what we're talking about. I think you will find that kind of fun, Brave Cobra. So that should just be those, and then that is the renames of these files there. Okay. Rename item types to singular. What a lovely day. Welcome, Kakokstian. Thank you for that follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And I will go ahead and run this code so that Brave Cobra can see what this stuff is. We've been doing some interesting stuff today. Brave Cobra, this is a fun little project that we have been building. It leverages code that is written both in C as well as C#. Technically, we are actually just running a C DLL to do some fun stuff over in the game that we're running. So, Brave Cobra, go ahead and run that command again. Wait, hang on. Wait until the bot says something in the chat and then do it. Now try it. Although you can't send the same message twice, so make sure you send something else before you do that. Although I may not have warned you in time, because of stream delay. Anyone else can do menu random as well. Oh, there we go. So there's new random menu colors. And it doesn't have to be random. You could also red, black, green, and blue, for example. We'll get you red, black, green, and blue in the corners. So you can choose any colors that you want, and that is top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right is the ordering of the colors. And no, there's no quit command there, Brave Cobra. And in addition to taking named colors, it actually does full hex values as well. So you could do menu. Oh, whoops! Yeah, let's take a look. There's Jen's duck. Colors there. You can also do that. Oh, the steel blue came in above it. It's got to be 4 colors, Brave Cobra. If you do 3 colors, it won't accept it. So, although, wait a minute. Why did it take that? Black. I'm confused by that. So you can actually do 1 color like what Jen's duck did, or you can do 4 colors and it does the 4 corners. I'm confused by that one. It should not have taken that one that way. Oh no, I know why it did that. Brave Cobra. Only the last one actually counted, and so it treated that as you're just saying black. So for example, if you did menu red, blue, green, lime. So when you see this, it's going to change the color to lime. Watch. See? Because of the way that worked. And I apologize, I should have warned everybody not to look at the screen for a second, because lime is really, really awful. So white is not as bad as you'd think. Because of the way they did this text, you can actually still read it all. Not to say white's good, but it could definitely be worse. So that is one of the features. We also have full control over the character's weapons and things like that. So it's actually kind of cool. Is there an off-white? I don't know if there is off-white as a color in this. We do have a lot of colors, though. There are 140 named colors that are available. Hence why, like, the steel blue worked, for example. So you can do, like, orange, orange, red, red, dark red. And you can do one of these, and you get, like, that sort of blended color. So these kinds of effects are kind of cool. Brave Cobra, I think you went slightly larger than an integer there. Yeah, so Fire Brick is available. There are a lot of colors available. Yeah, Brave Cobra, just slightly bigger than an integer. Although that might have even been limited to a U short or something like that. I don't remember. Yep, lots of cool colors are available. Yeah, Brave Cobra, just slightly over, just slightly over. Brave Cobra's trying to see if he can overflow and mess with stuff. Yep, but it's kind of neat how this works. So the other neat thing is you can actually apply status effects to the characters while it's running, and you can also rename them. So, for example, Cloud's name is now Brendan. Here you go. Congratulations, Jen's Duck. And Simon. There you go. So you can actually rename all the characters from chat, and if anybody outbids me on any of those, they can take control of the name. Is anyone currently in chat that can outbid me? I don't see anyone. Thanks, Jen's Duck. Yeah. If it wasn't obvious, Jen's Duck knows this game. Cloudbreaker. Yeah. Why don't you try negative numbers, Brave Cobra? Maybe negative numbers work. Yeah. See, Simon doesn't have any gil. You don't have negative gil, Brave Cobra. You have 0 gil. Yep. Now, I tried to be very careful about making sure that no one was able to mess us up with a with weird numbers. You gave up bits for gil, but still got 0. Yeah, so Jen's Duck technically should have like what, like 20 gil? Hang on. That's funny. I should have done give gil. But there you go, Jen's Duck. You now have 20 gil. Congratulations. So, yes, Jen now has more gil than most people in here. Drop database. Brave Cobra. Yeah, that's good. That was good. Good try. So now Jen's about to lose those gills. Sorry, Jen. You lost the gil. Because we don't maintain it after resetting. After resetting the app. So yep. It's truncate table. Yeah. No, you can drop a whole database. You can also drop a table. You can truncate a table too. Absolutely do those things. Remove completed to do. Yeah, remove completed to do. That to do is already done. Okay, I have a few other to dos that we need to take care of in here. So while we've been working on the equipment task, which is doing all the various commands and things that are dealing with equipment, that is currently the branch we are working on. I've been making to dos for that. One of them is, see, there's adding some of the settings to the settings screen, renaming that to ID. So everything in here, all these except for this to do here, they all have to do with equipment. So notice I've been keeping my to dos very, very limited to exactly what we're working on. Okay, so that is those. Rename to ID, I think I can do. The question is if it's used at all. Where's this used? Can I get... Let me... You know what? We're... Version control. This is why we have version control. Nuke. Item ID is that plus the type offset. But we can calculate that right away. I don't need to save this to do that. So I can just say... is this used for anything else? Is that used anywhere? Just here. Which means this item ID equals value plus type offset. And then this just becomes a standard property. get. And then we don't even need to have the type offset on there. It's just applied right here and used like so. Okay. Make it rain. Brave Cobra, I have in the past. What are you wondering about? It's been a few years, but I have. Okay. So when I run this, we're gonna have some compiler errors that we're gonna go fix. Value doesn't exist in the current context. Okay, cool. Let's try nuking this now too. And on equipment, is matched by ID is gonna go away. No, I need this. Wait, I need this. Because I need to pull it based on the ID. You know what? Hang on, let me bring this forward again. I am going to keep the ID. We're just going to make it an ID instead. ID equals value, but I'm going to call it ID. ID and ID. So it is ID, item ID, so there's ID, item ID, and then sometimes also equipment ID. So this is ID. Based on equipment, that is, bring that back. Okay. That's fine. Don't bring it back. Just do that. So that is a uShort ID. Yep. uShort! Okay. The other equipment types are going to be accessory, and that is going to be ID. And then armlet, and that is going to be ID. Let's build this. I should have just done a rename of value. Still trying to figure out the new app mesh to gain insight with together with X-ray we're running on Fargate. Yeah. Jen's Duck is in a slightly different world there, but it's one of those funny ones. We all do the same stuff. That's why I always find it hilarious when people show up places and they're like, "Why are you using that language? That one's bad." And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what's it matter? I know plenty of people that use PHP or Java or C# or C++ or Python or, you know, really Ruby. Like, it's like, okay, cool. You able to solve the problem with the language? Awesome. Good. In that case, good choice. It's always the funny one. It's like, yeah, you're able to solve it with that? Okay, so I got rid of that thing that I no longer needed. Wait, did I? Oh, yep, and the rename disappeared as well. Oh, ID. Hang on, I messed up. Wait, yeah, yep, item, yeah. ID, no set. There we go. Stoolpenner, I'm also glad that you knew the unlurk command was available. I never have bashed another language. Yeah, Jen's like, no, wait, so we'll all bash other languages sometimes, like, in, like, a joking manner, for example, but, like, legitimately bashing another language is just kind of silly. Never used AWS, but I use chock full of its own jargon and concepts as Azure is then. Yes, Simon, you're absolutely correct. One of the challenges with the cloud providers that we have today is they all have similar solutions to the same problem that have slight variations, different names for what they are. They are set up a little bit differently, but they are all solving basically the same problems. It's just they're each a little different, just enough to make you annoyed. That's kind of how it is. It's perfect. You like friendly banter between main languages people learn, but some people take it too far. Yeah, exactly. That's why I say, like, the friendly banter is one thing. Legitimately, like taking it to the I actually think your language choice is wrong is a really kind of a bad stance. Just not a good one to take. Oh, you know all about lurkers and stuff. That's good, Stool Penner. The head of IT was making a pitch for Go at my desk today. Kind of funny. Oh, Jen's Duck, like as in changing the colors of the stuff. I don't think I finished implementing the command that does that. I can change the color of the stuff around the stream still. I just did not finish making the command that does it. So, that's all. So, I want to make it work basically the same way as the menu stuff, where you'll just put in a command, and then the colors of all the stuff around the stream will shift around it as well. In addition, what I want to try to do is I want to actually make it so that we have animations for things where that color is controlled. So, for example, like I want to make it so that we have our own announcements of like followers and subscribes and stuff like that that are based on that same color choice. So I'd love to do it that way. Why don't we... just enough to make you annoyed. I forget what I said that about. Oh yeah, the differences between the clouds. Yes. Bravo 33. I will show you what that command in a second. I will let you run that. C# lambdas are still a pain on AWS. Cold start is way too long. Yep. So I think we have that changed. So that should be fine. So this is do I still have anything named value anywhere? Let me just confirm that I don't have that lingering. Yeah, it's still called a value here. Let's change this to be ID. ID. What do you need to search for? It's right here. Oh, actually, I might want you to get those ones, now that I think about it. Yeah, let's get all those. I'm pretty sure I did want it to get all those. Never mind, Resharper, you're correct, I'm wrong. Yep, it got all these. Well done. So now I'm going to review in our changes. I'm going to check the diff just to make sure it didn't do anything crazy. So that is changing the word value to ID. Value to ID to value to ID. That is getting rid of that one. That is, again, changing the word value to ID. And again there. Okay, so rename item.value. Sorry, everyone. I got to take that. Hang on one sec. And I'm back. Okay, so this is renaming item value to ID. Okay, let's go ahead and run the program because there are some people here that want to see what it is we're building. Value type ID controller factory. No, Brave Cobra, I decided not to Java that thing. I was checking a phone call and then that was pretty much it, Jen's Duck. I did not even move. Okay, so let me bring up the game. Right there. There, default menu color. Bravo, 33, you still in the chat somewhere? So there's actually a lot of menu control. So I just reset all the character names as well. So character names are reset, and the menu color is totally controllable. You can do things like random, and it will choose 4 random colors and apply them to the corners, and then you get this nice blended effect. Or you can specify the 4 individual colors that you want to use in chat there, just naming 4 colors. It also supports full hex values like what JensDuck is doing there. Or Coding Gorilla just put in 4 values for the corners, and you can see those up there. So that's top left, and then so that's top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. Yeah, so this goes on. So he didn't even know quite how neat it is. So let me just show you here. Like, this is like while you're playing the game, these things just change. So those color values that yeah, see, there's the white and the lime thanks to Average Guy. So during, like, mid-conversation, so like I'll have this, so combat should be about to start, but then keep changing the menu color because we're in combat now, and actually try some of those other commands that I have suggested in there as well. So Barrett's got a limit break there. So see, menu colors can still change even while we're doing this. I can apply regen to my characters if I do that, and I can... Did someone poison my character? No, probably didn't have enough money to poison the character, Brave Cobra. Yeah. But yeah, so you'll notice you can still change the colors of the menus while we're doing this as well. Cloud and Tifa both have the Peerless status as well as the regen status applied to them. So all these things are possible. Yeah, it's called. I did poison. So based on the status effect rather than the spell that causes the status. There, JensDuck, and instead you got a. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's an interesting bio that's in there. Someone asked me to put one in at one point just to answer that question. Yeah, so it's kind of neat stuff because it can actually affect at any time. So the funny thing is, we're no longer in combat. If I try running the regen command, you'll see it just yells at me and says, "Hey, that can only be used in combat." So, yep, good stuff. So, yep, full, like, interestingly, if you'd tried using any of the equipment commands while we were in combat, it actually would have told you that you can only use those outside of combat, because there are some commands that we only allow in certain places. Now, right now, I should specify the reason why the menu command just straight up works is that there is currently no set cost to it. So if we actually look at the settings for this, you'll see that we can just raise the minimum bits, and then so now someone try doing menu color settings. So anyone that doesn't have bits, so someone that's not Stool Penner, try changing the menu color. So yeah, just menu random. Yep, see? So Brave Cobra can no longer do it because Brave Cobra doesn't have any gil, and we added in a gil requirement. So, but if I get rid of that requirement, then all of a sudden you can change the menu color again. So see, remove the requirement, and Bravo 33 can do it again. So, yeah, JensDuck, I warned you that you were going to lose your gil when I restarted it, because I don't yet. So one of the missing features that we still have is I need a way of, so we do not yet save the money between sessions. So we need to both save the... well, actually, I'm torn on whether or not we're going to allow people to save gil. But what we do want to do is make it so that we save some of the data. So, who was select... what the names of the characters are. What the current bids are. We want to keep that set. So JensDuck should now have a few bits. JensDuck, you should have 5 gil. And the menu color is now black. Coding Gorilla, just so you know, if you're going to do all 4 of the same color, you only have to specify 1. You got a whole quarter now. Oh, that's awesome, JensDuck. Yeah. So yeah, In addition, we actually have ways of setting all the various prices for things. So the reason I told Stoolpenner not to do the menu color thing is because Stoolpenner actually starts with 150 gil automatically, because subscribers just get that. So the thought was, okay, subscribers should probably get some basic amount because they're subscribers. So like, it's essentially, just, hey, you're supporting the stream, so here's some bonus bits, and whoever's running the program can decide what amount that is. And yes, the settings page is just this battleship gray page here. That's not how you spell fuchsia. It's spelled like this. See? That's how you spell fuchsia. Much better. So, yep, very, very configurable stuff here. Oh yeah, fuchsia, yeah, that'll give you a headache. Don't run with that menu going too long. But that's part of the reason for chat being able to do that. Yeah, Stoolpenner, that's how you pronounce it's pronounced fuchsia. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, that's why no one can spell it. Is because that is the way that fuchsia is spelled. Yep, really crazy. Okay. Makes more sense in Dutch. Huh. I wonder why. Yeah. Guess I don't know, I don't know the language too well, so I don't know that one. You do know that that's not beer, average guy. Yes, I get so violent. You know, that caffeine really makes me crazy. In German, it's just how you spell it. No, not computer gens, compiler. I threw my compiler out the window. Anyway, so that's what it's got there. Let's take a look. We've got some more to-dos that we need to knock out here. So stop the program. We showed it again so people could see what we're building. Add to the settings screen. Oh, yeah, we really need to do that. Add a setting to allow this command. No. Allow moderators to use this command. Conditionally allow moderators to use this command, maybe. Yeah, we could maybe do that. Yeah, when you throw out a compiler, it just throws back exceptions. It's a Jack and Coke without the Coke. Yeah. See how he is correcting me? Exactly, Jet. It was so violent. I was like, no, it wasn't a computer, it was a compiler. Don't drink and compile. Bad idea. Okay. Allow moderators to use this command. Do I want to allow moderators to use this command? Wait, did it? Was my wedding ring visible on screen? It might have been. I don't know. You can use a link here. What are you talking about, Stoolpenner? What? Yes to what? Do I want to? You know what? We'll allow the person to decide whether or not they want a moderator to be able to control it. The yes was for you want to allow mods to use this command. Yes. Oh. Oh, yeah. Still, Penny, you know this one's only a positive one for me, right? So, yes, allow moderators to use this. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. Gotta. You don't want to let the ladies to know that that you're married. They don't throw as many biddies at you once they find that out, average guy. That's totally true. Okay. What do we want to do? Allow mod override on equipment. Do we make one for allow mod override on that? And is item different from equipment? We're gonna say yes. Items different from equipment. Public class item settings observable settings base. Enabled is true. You know what? Here. I'm gonna do that. And then there is no keep previous equipment concept. It is allow mod override to that. Again, these need the to-dos for adding to the settings screen. We'll make this its own file, and then move item settings into the application settings object, and add one in right here. So it is part of this. It is one of those, and done. Okay. So now, over in the item command, I can change this to be x.itemsettings.enabled. So that's whether or not this is turned on, and then this one is either this, or it is command dot user is mod. You know what? I want to reverse this so that it just makes sense. So we're going to say can override. You know, how do I do it elsewhere? There. Gank. In the item command, we're just going to put this in here. This is going to be item settings, allow override. So this will be if they, oh, wait, bit restriction? It's not going to be bit restriction, we'll fix that name. Command data dot user. So basically we're going to say if they cannot override is allowed to use command. If is allowed to use command, which means that they are either a moderator that's allowed to use, and I'm going to rename that, actually. It's not an override, it's just allow mod. You're all probably saying something like that in chat right now, because I see someone saying something in chat. Allow mod. Is allowed to use command. Okay, there we go. What's going on? Let's see. Yes, exactly. And Jensdug is usually said the other way. People usually say biddies for titties. because you give the streamer biddies and you get the titties, and that's the thing. Well, this stream is taking a different track. No, that's actually like normal Twitch stream pathway there, Coding Gorilla. Hey, Crystal Assassin, welcome. We are building a program that is a bunch of Twitch commands that connect into Final Fantasy VII and allow you to interact with the game. Yeah, game's not running, so like the commands will work when I've got it up. Fear is not the only emotion Brendan can smell. Yeah. Yep, you'll see some cool stuff, Crystal. So allowed to use command. Perfect. Let's, let me see the changes. So we have item settings. So that is settings for that. Okay, so settings for item command. We'll say. There we go. Is there a 319th item? I think there is. Crap, is there? Dang it. Hang on, I need to go look. Also, that may not work. How many is less than that? A U short has to be less than that. Yeah, okay. Materia command. Same concept applies here. Did I commit that? I did, right? Good. Okay. Item settings. Doop. Materia settings. Move that to its own file, and then on application settings, I'm going to do the same thing here, where I add in Materia settings as a thing. Not sure why I have the setters on those, but won't worry about it for now. Inside the Materia command, I want to say x.materiasettings.enabled, and then down here, I want to go to the item command, grab this same bit of code here, put it right there. Instead of checking item settings, it checks Materia settings for allow mod, and then is allowed to use command. We'll say is allowed to use command and then negate it. Command data user and negate it. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Coding Gorilla, we're actually running the Steam version of Final Fantasy VII, so I will point out that our application, I believe, works for both the Steam version as well as the one that you would get directly from Square Enix, though I haven't tested the one direct from Square Enix. But the Steam version for the PC does work. So that is the version of Final Fantasy VII that we are testing against. The nice thing about that is if you are using any of the stuff from the modding community, most of their stuff affects this same version as well. And I have tested some of our code against modded versions of this, and it does actually work. So for anyone that was waiting to see how the program interacts with Final Fantasy VII, you can go ahead and try commands now. So feel free to try the menu command or something like that, and just do menu random if you want, or specify colors if you like. So the way that we do that is so originally we had a list of colors in here that we supported, and we just translated the color name to RGB. We currently just look it up in C#'s color library, and we just grab the color name out of that, and then we take any hex code you pass in, we convert that back to a byte each. So 2 digits of hex is the same thing as a single byte. So we convert the hex values into 3 bytes, or in the case of the 3-character hex codes, we convert those each letter into a single byte each, and then use those as the RGB values for the 4 corners that then get blended together when displaying the menu in the game here. In addition, we also have some saved named palettes, like the default one, so you can switch it back to default. Oh man! Stool Penner! Aw, you broke us. You broke us. I don't think it's actually broken, I think, like, because we just ignore this exception and move on. But what did we try to access that we weren't supposed to access, I wonder? Where did we hit that? Because I'm actually kind of surprised we got one of those. Oh, it was looking for a it was in special color. Oh, first arg in special color. Okay. It's special color. First arg, yep. No, I think it just got broken when we added in special color here. Yeah, it's when we added this, or random. There you go. That'll be a safety on it. Which I am not going to bother getting that just yet. But yeah, we should add a test around that, so I will leave that not committed yet, so that we remember to get that one. So untick that box, and then these ones we will send in allow mod to use materia command. There we go. Very nice. So that's what we're building. I want to get this to the point where it is actually like usable by other people, so that we can have like an actual release version of it. Right now, I wouldn't recommend, like, you know, that most people just run this. It's fairly safe. I was very careful with what we use the inputs for and everything like that, so I feel safe having someone run it. What I would be worried about is I don't want them to... so the main things right now, I want the application to be able to save the data. So we have we have bidding for character names. So for example, if you want to rename Cloud, Tifa, or Barrett inside the game, you can rename them right now, but the problem is if you do the gameplay in multiple sessions, so Final Fantasy VII being a long game, you might not finish it in a single stream. I want those names and the bids for them to be saved for the next stream, so you could potentially load them in again. So we want some way of saving the data. Now, what I'm debating on this is, do I actually go and get like a SQLite database or something like that to store the data? Because we are getting into the point where, like, you might want to save multiple, you know, playthroughs or something like that. Or do I just take the simple route, take the data, serialize it, shove it in a file, and say, like, hey, yeah, it's saved. The nice thing about that approach is that if someone else wanted to share a save file with someone else, where, you know, they could transfer around the name bids or something like that, you know, because, like, hey, you want to continue where I left off, here it is, you can just refresh, load the game, I'll send you my save file, and I'll send you my my Interactive 7, that's what I call this program, save file as well, and you could just do that. So that would actually be pretty good. So again, that's why I say, like, we could do a SQLite database, but it'd also be easy to do it this way, because then someone could also just alter the data. And like a regular person, like, JSON's not easy for a regular person to alter, but they could if they needed to. Whereas, like, a regular person gets a SQLite database, and they're going to be like, what? ACDC, nice, Stool Penner. That's good. Yeah, exactly. So Brave Cobra mentions, yeah, there are some other solutions like that that can do the same kind of thing. So that's the debate, is how do I do that? Because realistically here, the question is whether I want to make you save it and, you know, manually, or whether I want the game to, like, whether I want the program to be updating it as the events happen. I don't know yet. Because I want things to be fast, because we're running on someone's computer, I kind of don't want to go with, like, database access. I'd rather have some of these things be in memory and be, like, you know, accessed in some other ways. JSON is good enough for the Microsoft Terminal team. Yeah, so those are the kinds of things. I want that scenario to be handled so that, like, someone streaming this game will be in okay shape. That's the big thing, as far as I'm concerned. I want someone to be successfully able to do repeated streams running this and have that scenario be fine. Our feature set right now, I think, is okay. The various names for the different status effects you can apply are good. I think the name bidding system works just fine. I think the menu color system works just fine. The equipment leaves something to be desired. Because I don't yet have pricing. What I want to do for that is I want to get individual pricing values for each of the different pieces of equipment that are configurable by the streamer. So if the streamer decides, hey, I don't want anyone to send me, you know, Ultima Weapon or something like that, they can make it expensive. Or if they don't want to be sent back to a Buster Sword, again, they can make it expensive. So stuff like that. You know, Brave Cobra, no, we're not storing any of that data in the cloud, despite the main character being named Cloud. Anyway, a couple of things I do want to mention. I want to make sure that I send everyone to our Discord, which is a great place to chat with me and the other members of the DevChatter community. Additionally, I'm going to point everybody to our GitHub, where you are welcome to, you know, follow me on GitHub or anything like that, or look at any of our projects, whatever you want to do. And if you missed any of our streams or want to catch any other ones, we have recorded videos and stuff like that in the video section here on Twitch, and then we also have our full archives, because Twitch only keeps recent ones, but we have our full archives over on YouTube at youtube.com/c/devchatter, and that goes back to the beginning. So again, like, you'll notice that, you know, we've done over 200 live streams here on the channel, lots of good stuff. And let me take a look at a couple of things. Who is live that we want to raid? So I want to ask, yes, and if you are new to the stream, be sure to follow, because that's the best way to get notified when we go live. I'll try to stream 4 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, though recently I have not been as consistent with those days as I would like to. For example, there's a reasonable chance that we will not have our Saturday stream this week, though my plan is still to do our Thursday stream this week. So should be a good one. Let's see, other things. We do a lot of .NET, C# and that sort of stuff on the stream here. Let me go ahead and get this set up. Where are we going? Where are we going? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Programming with Dan. Welcome and thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Much appreciated. And that is always a nice way to end a stream. Please do be sure to enjoy your DevChatter emotes, including DevChatter hype emotes, DevChatter derp emotes, and a variety of other ones, including the coveted left-right emotes that allow you to raid other channels with dueling Chattosauruses. Quite fun. And let's see, where do we want to go? I think we're going to go to... I'm just debating whether we go to Honest Dan. We could definitely go to Honest Dan. That's an interesting one, and would make some sense with where we are today. He's doing C++, though, so that might be a strange one. But either way, we'll take a look. So what I want to mention to everyone is I do want you to stick around, please, please, please. You do not actually have to stick around once we're in Dan's channel, but I do, whenever I do a raid, I only raid streams that I actually know are good. So if I raid a stream, it is good. Okay, I don't shout out every random person that comes in here. I don't raid any given person that's live. So that is like if I raid someone, that is actually saying, hey, I think this person is good in some way. That doesn't necessarily mean that like every aspect of their stream is something you're gonna like, because I will occasionally raid people that are not doing programming. So if what I want you to do for me is go over there and either, if you have our emotes, if you are one of our subscribers, spam some of our emotes in the chat and say hi. If you are not one of our subscribers, please just follow us along and say, you know, hi from DevChatter or something like that. Stick around, take a look at at least what Dan's doing over there, because he does do some awesome stuff. And if you want to stick around, cool. But after that point, you know, it's all up to you. And I really appreciate it, because it is nice for the community to spread some love around. So, with that being said, I want to make sure that I thank everybody who came out today and made this stream awesome. I had a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to seeing everybody again on Thursday. So thank you everyone for hanging out. I want to thank Jens Duck for those 25 biddies. I want to thank our moderators, Stool Penner and S&B, for helping to make the stream you know, a nice stable one. And I want to thank those 2 wonderful people who followed, as well as these wonderful people that subscribed. So thank you to everyone who subscribed, hung out, chatted, or anything like that. Really appreciate it. And please stick around, as the raid is now going to start here. We're going to get that wired up. I'm going to switch us to our outro screen, and then it should raid us on over. So please stick around, join us in the raid. It'll be fun. Trust me, Dan's a really cool developer, and I think you will all like that stream. So I will see you all on Thursday. Happy coding, everyone, and enjoy the next couple of days. Bye, all.
Using the place actor one, right? So actor begin overlap.